show, we're on a roll. Unsanctioned Florida, we'll bring the heat. Spotlight on the scumbags, can't accept defeat. From the coast to the swamp, we'll make it clear. A sun-god shine state, we're spreading the fear. Unsanctioned Florida, we'll bring the heat. Stop the crows, shine the scumbag, can't accept defeat. In the sunshine state, we're spreading the fear, the fear. Red and blue, they try to divide, but we'll expose the truth, we won't hide. Corruption runs deep, it's like a crime wave. On this podcast, we'll be brave. Echoes of the truth, let it ring. Politicians fail, but we're the real thing. Unsanctioned Florida will bring the heat. Spotlight on the scumbags, can't accept defeat. From the coast to the swamp, we'll make it clear. In the sunshine state, we're spreading the fear. So tune in, now we've got work to do. Exposing the truth, bringing it to you. Bringing it to you.
When you're on campus, do you ever feel unsafe when it gets to this amount of numbers?
We don't want to have to be accountable to God when this life passes. And he asks, why did you not trust in me and not fight evil? My call is to fight evil and to proclaim truth. That's it.
If everything completely goes away, how do you want to be remembered?
I want to be remembered for courage for my faith. That would be the most important thing. The most important thing is my faith. I'm just flesh and bone, but more importantly, I'm a soul. And that soul is accountable to one being. What matters is your relationship with the divine, your relationship with your family, your kids, and maybe a close collection of friends, and your relationship with the truth. Christ wants us to be salt and light. Now, what are the two characteristics of salt and light? They change the environments that they come in contact with. They do not affirm, they do not conform, they change for the better. We as Christians are called to change the environment that we come in touch with. Before I go on a college campus, my prayer is very simple. God, use me for your will. God is sovereign above all. What is God's plan when I go on a college campus? I just believe I will only tell truth, I will not compromise, and I'll love on the lost. The specific teachings of Christ is go make disciples of all nations. Jesus called us to love children. Jesus called us to tell truth. Jesus called us to contest in the public square for his purposes. I'm far more interested in what God wants of me than what I want from God. And what God wants from me is a life fighting for truth. You are commanded to go do something productive with your life. Wow. To go give and to produce and to risk and to then go sow into other people. That is a biblical idea that has made the world a profoundly better place.
Cheers to the pines, freedom runs through these lines. Grassroots are rising hand in hand. FRA will guard this land. They said our fire should fade away, but we're burning brighter every day. With faith and truth we'll light the way. This is the FRA. Stand tall. Let the people hear you say we are the voice that won't be chained by party bosses or their games. Stand tall. FRA. Where the patriots find their way. Florida strong, forever free. FRA is the place to be. We feed the hungry, fight the lies, lift our banners to the skies. Train the faithful, teach the youth, guard the ballot, guard the truth. No decree can break our song. This assembly's proud and strong. When freedom calls, we answer loud. FRA will make you proud. Stand tall. FRA. Let the people hear you say we are the voice that won't be chained by party bosses or their game. Stand tall. FRA. Where the patriots find their way. Florida strong, forever free. FRA is the place to be. Raise your hands, raise them high. FRA will never die. Faith and fire, liberty. This is our assembly. Stand tall. FRA. Let the people hear you say we are the flame they can't put out. The rebel voice, the freedom shout. Stand tall. FRA. Where the patriots find their way. Florida strong, forever free. FRA is the place to be. Stand tall. Hear the call.
It was such. I'm at a loss for words when you think about what happened, John, recently with Charlie Kirk, and just horrific, unbelievable, and I think it's the worst thing I've ever seen in my lifetime.
There's so much to be said, and this is not what I'm about to say is not a delicate way to put my thoughts on this, especially in this kind of format. You're talking to a lot of people, and I'm gonna say what I have been feeling, what my heart has been saying. And I know that a lot of people are going to hate on this message that I'm about to give you, but at the end of the day, it needs to be said. And I think it's an opinion that a lot of men have, and the men who are not thinking it need to start thinking a little bit more profoundly about these types of things. In my opinion, this assassination of Charlie Kirk was not the fault of the Democrats. I think it was the fault of the Republicans. And I'm going to tell you why. Because it has been obvious, it has been out in the open that the Democrats have lost their minds for decades. The Democrats have not been Democrats for decades. Without question, they have become the party of hate and racism and tolerance, but intolerance, but most importantly, hypocrisy. Everything that they say is now false. But on the other side of that same token, the master of those pets is the Republican Party and Republican elected officials. It's the Republican officials, for example, in Florida, right? You have a supermajority. And what have they been able to accomplish? Nothing.
Yeah.
Why? We have right now Donald Trump, who has had the biggest landslide electoral victory in decades, right? In at least 20 years, since the early 2000s. The mandate that he received was overwhelming. He overperformed in every demographic that you would expect. And yet the Republican majority in Congress can do nothing. That's with a leader that's right there. They have been hiding under the shadow of fecklessness for 20, 30, 40 years, right? And that's the reason our country is the way it is. That is the reason that some small Ukrainian woman can be murdered on a train.
Yeah.
That is the reason that Charlie Kirk was murdered. That is the reason that you have senior citizens getting punched on the street by thugs on a weekly basis. That's why you have kids shooting up schools, because the Republican leadership, who have the responsibility, the sacred responsibility of standing up and protecting the America that they, at least with their tongues, acknowledge that needs to be saved and protected, they're not doing it. They're allowing us all, and they're allowing our country to be victimized by the craziness of the devil.
Yeah.
And just demons. And in my opinion, it's their fault. This is their fault. And also, in my opinion, it's not that we don't have enough violence. It's not that we have too much violence. It's that we do not have enough violence. We no longer have an appreciation for life. We don't have an appreciation. We have mothers killing their own children. We have kids disrespecting their parents. We have everyone, every leader abandoning their oath that they made to God on their family Bibles. The world has gotten to a place where now we're looking at a legitimate. This is not like Crazy Town. Legitimately, we're looking at evidence of end times.
Yeah.
And it's happening because of the lack of spirit in men. I don't know that there's 500 men in Washington, D.C. who share a testicle between them. I don't understand how men are not rising to the occasion. A real man has the instinct to protect his family and his country.
Yeah.
They have that instinct. You don't need to think about it. Men don't pull out their phones and film violence. Men fight with violence against abuse of those who cannot defend themselves. And in my opinion, that violence just does not exist. So people are not afraid to behave in the way that they're behaving today. And that, to me, is something that is lost in our country.
Yeah.
And you don't see that. For example, you don't see people, even you go to Russia. Russia's supposed to be our enemy, but you don't see old ladies getting stabbed by men on trains in Russia. Why do you not see that? Because 5 different Russian men will stand up and protect that woman. And I'm not saying that Russian people are better than American people, but I'm saying that the leaders of our country have made it normal for these things to happen, and then for the men to not do anything about it. They have done that. We have absolutely programmed our young men to do nothing with the sight in front of their eyes, where their instinct should be kicking in and protecting people. And
well, John, it's not even just that. I mean, look at our criminal justice system and the weakness within it. We've gone very soft on crime for years and years, soft on crime, soft on murder, to the point that now you have people that do not fear killing another person and what the consequences will be for that murder. They don't care if they're going to do life in prison. They don't care about that. You need to bring back mandatory death sentences for intentional murders. You need to bring back the electric chair. You need to bring back these mental institutions. These are things we've talked about on this show before. these are things that need to return to America. And I wouldn't even be opposed to public hangings at this point for some of this shit. Sorry
But
for my
the
language.
problem is they're not what man is gonna execute it, right? We've seen that we have laws in place that should deter this kind of behavior, but it's not about the laws. Now it's about
No.
culture. Our
Yeah.
American culture has a cancer that needs to be removed from it. I think that's where we're at. And
And
listen, we're gonna say our prayer,
yeah.
and it may seem counterintuitive to pray after what I've just said, but it's exactly what we need. We need for men to be men. Jesus turned over tables. Okay, he did not accept, and all of our leaders are accepting, and we, as citizens that have a biblical duty and responsibility to be involved in civics, are not rising up to the occasion to hold them accountable. And the lack of accountability has turned our country into chaos.
Yeah.
And but let's, welcome to another episode of Unsanctioned Florida. Of course, this is a special. We have a lot of things to talk about. We're going to talk about the Battle of the Elephants. We're going to talk about the FRA elections. But of course, it would be just we couldn't do the show without making a comment on what all of America just experienced together, and that was absolutely horrific. And we have to work on fixing it. We can no longer allow our politicians to pretend that they don't have a job to do and not hold them accountable. That
Red state governors need to step up, and they need to step up now.
Yeah, our congressman in Congress needs to step. Washington D.C. needs to step up to save our country. No, I mean we can't accept business as usual anymore.
No.
So, anyways, let me say a quick prayer, and then we're gonna get right down to the show. There's a lot to talk about, and that I think that the most important thing that we can do is pray for our country and for the American people. Lord God, this is a true moment in history that is testing every American. Every American should feel compelled to now take part in improving their country and grasping it from the little threads that are left that are falling between our fingers. Grasp on with everything that we have to bring our country back to a place that would honor you, that will respect your holy word, that will respect the intentions of our founding fathers, that would respect humanity and life. Right now, we are failing so badly, but we can do better. I implore you, Lord, I beg you, I pray that you inspire every American to stand up, come together, and do what we all innately know is right. I hope that you inspire every man to protect their family and their country and their community. I hope that you inspire every woman to protect their own children and all the children of their communities. I hope and pray that you inspire all children to honor and obey their parents and to have a relationship with you, without which there is no future. Lord, I say that not with exasperation, which is what it sounds like, but I say that with 100% gratefulness that I am aware of the circumstances, gratefulness that Americans are waking up every day to the reality of the position that we are in. I am grateful, Lord. And I'm here. I hope that you call on Tom and I hope that you call on our guests. I hope that you call on everyone who watches this show to stand up and take part in the revolution that is required in this country right now, a revolution to save this country. It is time again, Lord, for the American people to bring our country back from the brink. Our founding fathers gave us an example. They sacrificed their wealth, their lives, everything, their families, their futures, so that they can provide us with this country. And now it is our turn to return that favor for future generations. And I pray, Lord, that you inspire the American people to do so now before it's too late. In your son's holy and beautiful name, Jesus Christ, I pray. Amen.
Amen. All right, John. So this show, like you said, is the special. It's another continuation of our series on the War of the Elephants, or, we could probably call it a battle because it wasn't really much of a war, but it is over. The court case ended, and we did invite the executive vice president of the Florida Republican Assembly, Lou Marin, onto the show. Lou did call us tonight and was unable to appear on the show tonight. His father is in poor health, and our thoughts are with Lou. Hopefully everything is okay with his father. We do have other folks that were involved in this fight, including one of the main people involved in this fight, who is Robin Lumb.
Yeah. Before we get we get to Robin and bring Robin on, I wanted to make a couple of comments about what the genesis of FRA. The FRA has existed for a long time, and it was a great organization doing great things for a very long time. And then the RPOF started purging the most patriotic, the most loyal, the hardest working, the really the key, the soul of the Republican Party from the Republican Party. True conservatives, they started purging because they would not do what they were told. They would not obey Evan Powers' wishes. They would not stay out of primary elections. Imagine, we have one of the biggest issues of our time is election integrity. I know that the media likes to pretend that that's not an issue. Elected politicians, supervisor of elections, they pretend that that's not an issue. But it is absolutely an issue. When the United States, throughout my entire life, has gone and overseen the elections of other countries because they did not have trustworthy elections, and now we in the United States are fighting for the sanctity of our own elections, for the protection of our own election integrity, and they're telling us that the problem doesn't exist, even though we know that there are problems. We've witnessed it even here locally.
Yeah.
There is an absolute problem with elections, and now our own Republican Party has been caught with their hands in the cookie jar, preventing true conservatives from winning elections. First and foremost, they've been using dark money to destroy the reputations of MAGA conservatives, and they have used all the donations of Floridian conservatives to completely elect people who have no conservative intentions. Right? That was happening. As a result, the FRA was flooded with patriots. Right? While they were purging people so that they could accomplish those goals, true patriots were running to the FRA, right? Starting chapters all over the state, becoming active, growing the FRA. And the FRA became the refugee camp for the expelled Republicans and conservatives from the Republican Party who were not willing to partake in the corruption, who went and started becoming active in the FRA instead. All right, that's the backdrop. We covered the War of the Elephants while the leaders of the Republican Party and the grassroots of the FRA were at war with one another, even to the point of lawsuits, which is where Mr. Lumb was involved, right?
Yeah.
Is that, did I miss anything?
No, not at all. Not at all. So why don't we go ahead and bring Robin in now?
Yep.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah,
so
let's bring Robin in.
Let me see. Where are we? This one. Yeah, there he is. There's Robin Lumb. And Robin Lumb is the former president of the Duval County Republican Assembly. And he's also the former state committeeman, exiled state committeeman for the Duval County REC, right? Is that the...
No, I was, no, not state committeeman. No, I had been serving on the Duval County REC since 2004. I previously have served as vice chair, and in 2014, I served as chair of the Duval GOP.
You were a precinct committee man, its chair,
Right.
and its vice chair at one point. And you were also a county commissioner in Duval. Is that correct?
That's correct. I was. We had a very good conservative block on. It's actually the city council and the county commission combined because we're a consolidated government. But yeah, I served there for a single term.
So these are the straight up credentials. You have been a conservative for a long time. You had leadership positions in the GOP at the local level. And so tell us what happened. First, before you get into the lawsuit, just give us a quick rundown of what happened. What's your story?
Well, my story leads into the lawsuit, but I will tell you that Dean Black, who was then the chairman of the Duval County Republican Party, he now serves in the state legislature, filed a grievance against me in July of 2024, based on the fact that I was, as president of the Duval County Republican Assembly, I was using the word Republican, which is a violation of RPOF's Rule 1A1. And that was the basis of the grievance. The grievance.
Did you see the grievance when they submitted it? Did you see?
Yeah, I saw it, and ordinarily I wanted a response, I think, within just like 7 days, but I got an extension, and my response was around about 15 pages because I wanted to make sure I got everything out there on the record. But what they did was they waived their own rules. So the grievance committee has specific rules in place. It says they can't consider a grievance within 90 days of an election, and they can't consider a grievance where litigation is likely to occur or has been threatened. So on both counts, their own rules prohibited them from considering the grievance against me. They waived the rules, and Evan Powers said, "You're out."
And then what happened?
I got mad. I thought about what my options were at that point. What really stuck in my craw. I don't particularly care about getting back on the REC. In fact, if I had won the case and was put back on the REC, I would have quit immediately because I wasn't going to sign the new loyalty oath. So that wasn't important. But what really stuck in my craw was this notion that the Republican Party of Florida has a proprietary claim on the term Republican. And that goes back to the cease and desist letters they sent last year, where they literally say, Gibson, the attorney for the RPOF, literally says that the term Republican is the official property of the Republican Party of Florida,
Which is ridiculous.
Which is it's an absurdity. The term Republican has been in common use as a partisan identifier since the party was founded in 1854. It's generic. It is not subject to trademark. You couldn't trademark the word Republican with the United States Patent and Trademark Office if you paid them $1 million. It's just not going to happen. But they have abused Florida statutes, which allow them to file their name, abbreviation, and symbol, and they began filing all this stuff, including the word Republican, and then pretending that the word Republican is synonymous with Republican Party of Florida. And then they passed a rule saying you can't be on an REC if you're a member of the FRA, which is what I call, a gag order.
And essentially, the fight here really was there's a lot of different layers to this fight, right? There were a lot of reasons that spurred this fight. I think a strategic reason for this fight to make sure they had to have it was the whole basis of the lawsuit was to be able to kick people out who were not in the party and essentially destroy the FRA, right? They wanted to destroy the FRA. Like, that was the purpose. And the reason for destroying the FRA was that the FRA was accomplishing two things. Number one, they were very effective at lobbying legislators and getting what they wanted and building a reputation for the organization. And number two, and by a larger degree, they were getting involved in primaries and making an impact, causing the RPOF to spend more money, causing Republicans who were not maybe aware of a lot of the finer details to be more aware of who is a rhino and who's not a rhino, right? And then essentially bypassing RPOF for permission to elect their own local leadership. So those were two things. Now, why would the RPOF be deciding? And they have that. This is a fact. It's not something they can argue. The RPOF, its apparatus, has decided who was going to be elected at the local level, not just in the RECs, which is already disgusting, but they do that for the state legislative elections also, right? They've been interfering in our local elections from Tallahassee already for a long time. And that may not be too offensive to someone. But when they're electing rhinos for specific reasons to appease the special interests, that is offensive to me. And if it's not offensive to you, then that, I think it explains why there's a third party rising in Florida right now. So tell us now the outcome of this case.
So let me give you the 3-minute version, or 3.5-minute version. So after this happened, I began thinking about what my options were. I decided that I would proceed pro se as my own attorney, and I spent about 2 months talking to my attorney friends and trying to cobble together something that was a reasonable facsimile of a complaint. And the final version was put together by Rachel Rodriguez, who is the attorney for the FRA. And so on November 21st of last year, I filed my complaint in circuit court. There were two basic parts of the complaint. The first was that I alleged that I had been unlawfully removed from the Duval County Republican Executive Committee. And the second part was that arguing that the word Republican is generic in nature and cannot be claimed as property of the Republican Party of Florida. On December 20th, the FRA joined me as an additional plaintiff. We filed an amended complaint. At that point, the FRA added to my complaint the argument that they emphasized that the word Republican is not subject to any kind of trademark by the RPOF, and they argued that under Florida Statute 103.0812 that the FRA is statutorily exempt from a rule that says you can't use any name, a symbol, or abbreviation of a political party unless you've been in existence for 10 years. So the FRA clearly met that 10-year requirement. So to bring the story forward, the RPOF did what we expected. They filed a motion to dismiss. On January 26th, the judge heard this in chambers. He denied their motion to dismiss. He was asking all the right questions. And toward the end of the hearing, he said, you know, what I think I really want to hear are motions for summary judgment. So summary judgment is appropriate when all the facts are known, and it's simply a matter of deciding what the law is that applies. So then we get to the final hearing. The parties have filed their cross motions for summary judgment, and suddenly he does a 180. All of a sudden, my issues become non-justiciable, meaning it's not within the jurisdiction of the court because the Republican Party of Florida is a private organization and they can do whatever they want. You know, if they don't want me around, they can kick me out. He didn't really understand the argument that I was making, but I won't go into detail on that. And then he said, on the issue of the statutory exemption, it was a moot point because it wasn't ripe for a decision. Because if the RPOF had actually sued the FRA and the FRA was defending against that, then he would be able to render a decision. But he said it was purely hypothetical at that point as to whether or not the FRA might be injured, might have been injured. And basically, he said we were saying all we were asking for was a legal opinion, and that was not within the scope of his jurisdiction. So it was, I would call it a draw. The RPOF gained nothing other than to have the lawsuit come to an end. There was nothing in the judge's ruling that prevents the FRA from using the word Republican in its name. And I am of the opinion, even though others have said otherwise, that we've pretty much made it clear to the RPOF. I think they see the handwriting on the wall, that there's no way they're ever going to win a lawsuit claiming that the word Republican is their official property, especially when someone's got federal trademark protection.
Well, people have won worse cases with less evidence and less going for them with the right judge, right? And so we always have to be careful that there's a lot more than the law involved in a lawsuit.
Well, what was interesting was that the RPOF put Gibson, their attorney, on the bench and brought in Michael Orr from the firm of Orr Cook in Jacksonville. And Michael Orr was sworn in as the president of the Florida Bar Association 3 days later.
Yeah. I mean, coincidence happen, just never in politics. So, you know, I mean, you wouldn't be surprised if it wasn't all innocent. We'll just leave it at that. Now, here's the other thing. I think it's important to notice. This is what was the tactical solution that the RPOF was seeking? What is it that they were actually doing? They were kicking people out of the party, right? They were kicking you out of the party. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter. They found an excuse, but what they wanted was to kick you out of the party, right? And they were doing
off the REC, but not out of the party. I'm still a Republican.
Right. Out of the executive committee at the local level. Every county has an executive committee, and every executive committee has its members. It has a chairman. It's got these officers, and those are the people that basically manage the Republican operations for elections in their local county. They're all called precinct committeemen and women, and then they help win the elections and they participate in that stuff, and they're the ones that volunteer and so on and so forth. But these are people that are usually devoted to the party, and they work hard, they volunteer, they give money, and so on. And they start kicking out their own people, right? And those people, they were, kicking them out for whatever reason. Now, this all started. I just want to mention, I think it's important to say, this began in 2020. In 2022, a lot of people were kicked out throughout the state. Dozens, if not hundreds of people were kicked out from their executive committees throughout the state. But it actually began in 2020, actually right here in Osceola County. They stole an election. I think that they tested the tactic here. They realized that they can get away with it. And then they started doing it in the next election for the county elections, for the RAC elections throughout the state. And that's why everyone was shocked. But it happened, with Trent Wayman. Trent Wayman was a duly elected state committee man. And then they removed him from the seat. They dissolved the parties. They've just been doing anything that they can. At the bottom line is no one can interfere with their servitude to the lobbyist group. And that's what it comes down to. So let's do this. Let's bring in, now let's change directions here and let's talk about the FRA and its elections, right? So the FRA, we talked about the kind of organization, what its purpose was, and so on. So you are running for a seat with the FRA, and just let me disclose this. As Tom said earlier, we invited Lou to be on the show at the end of the week. He this evening he let us know that he couldn't be on. We sent emails to another gentleman, John Ward, who's also running. We tried to get in contact with as many people to have everyone come on, talk about the platform, talk about what their vision is for the party. There are some, as I've discovered in my conversations with you gentlemen, there's points of contention about the party and the assembly and what the assembly is doing and how they're managing these elections. We're going to talk about those things. We'll talk about those things after we bring in our next guest, and you guys introduce yourselves, and we'll just talk about you guys as candidates for the FRA. So why don't we bring in our next guest, which is Bob. Right. Robin, we'll leave you here, and then we'll go to Bob first, and then we'll reintroduce you as a candidate, Robin.
Sure. Yes. And Bob Valenta is the Lee County Republican Assembly president, and he is running against Lou Marin for president of the Florida Republican Assembly. This is his opener. He is the Rhino Hunter.
Christian since conception, American made, Republican raised. I don't bend, I don't fade. I lace up my boots and I load this song. One rhino at a time won't take me long. Down in Lee County where the bonfires burn, I'm hunting the fakes at every turn. Spineless suits with a sellout smile, forgot about the people they swore to beguile. Trade their word for a pat on the head, but I'll paint their betrayal in freedom red. Grassroots thunder, hear the roar tonight. Rhino hunters riding and I'm set to fight. No masquerade, no watered down lies. I'm the storm rising under patriot skies. Bible in one hand, ballot in the other. I'll take down a rhino, then go hunt another. I'm a rhino hunter, boots on the ground. From Lee County fire to a Tallahassee sound. From DC's halls to the shining sea. The Republic's calling, it's calling me. 11 bold steps, I keep them obsessed. 42, now I like keeping them stressed. From Fort Myers Fields to the Panhandle Pines, I'm tracking down lies with the people's lines. They vote like the left, then preach their right, but I'll drag them out into the Florida night. Sacred scrolls inked by a rebel's hand. Freedom's blood runs deep in this land. Global eyes watch, but I don't break. I'll hunt down the fakes for the people's sake. I'm a rhino hunter, hear that thunder roll, cleaning out the party, heart and soul. From Lee to the Keys, then on to DC, we're taking back the name of the GOP. 11 bold steps, we keep the weak ones pressed. We're the fire, the fight, and we won't rest. Boots on the ground, no fear, no shame. shame. I'll call out a rhino by his name. Christian American outlaw born. I hunt for freedom till the break of dawn.
Wow, what an open, Bob.
That says it right there.
If only our rhinos in Tallahassee were that majestic. I was hoping for the kill shot there for the rhino. Okay, so here we go. Let's talk about, you're running for president. You're running against Lou Marin, who's the current executive vice president. A lot of people know Lou, right? So let's introduce everyone to you and tell us what your vision is for the FRA, why you're running, and what your goals are.
All right. Well, first of all, thanks for playing that video. That was great. I do write Rhino Hunters on Substack, robertvalenta.substack.com, and I go after the jackasses and the rhinos. Equal opportunity.
In most cases.
It is quite often. My articles have been picked up by the Miami Independent, Alex Newman, and the Gateway Pundit. In fact, I went up to shake Alex's hand at the FRA convention a few weeks ago, and I just said, I don't want to bother you. I know you're busy, but I just want to. And I said, I write Rhino Hunters on Substack, and he says, oh no, I'm a big fan. So that was really cool. And Gateway Pundit has picked up stuff. In terms of my vision for the FRA, I mean, I think it's pretty clear we've all been fighting with the RPOF, the RECs, the top-down nature there. So we came over to the assembly. It was billed as a bottom-up organization, and then over the last 2 years, we've learned that it's really anything but. It's a one-man show at the top. It has been, and I foresee that it's going to continue to be unless we, and I mean we, the executive committee, that's all the representatives from all the counties, come together and say, no, we're going to have a roundtable executive committee that the board is subject to, that the board works for. So I want to read this out of the REC CMC, page 3, section 8, paragraph 2. This pretty much sums up my campaign. The executive board shall have general supervision of the affairs of the executive committee between its meetings, make recommendations to the executive committee, and shall perform such other duties as may be specified by party rules. The board shall be subject to the orders of the executive committee, and none of its acts shall conflict with actions taken by the executive committee. And that's what I envision for the FRA, is that the executive board, after the executive committee meets, right now it would be, 45, 50 people. When we have our regular meetings, whatever's decided there, that's the direction that we're going to take. And then my job as president, Robin's job as vice president, and the rest of the board, their job would be to help make that happen, to execute it. We would be the executives. We would execute that which everyone agreed on wanting to do. And we don't have that.
Different than what we have in the FRA right now.
I saw a new email today. All of a sudden, we're getting like 3 emails a day, where it could be 3 weeks between emails before. 11 new resolutions were passed last night by the executive board, which right now is 3 people. 3 people passed 11
on the executive board of the FRA, and they decide.
Technically,
I guess the bylaws of the organization.
Well, no, the bylaws are the bylaws. They just circumvent the bylaws and do whatever they want. We'll get to that in a minute. Technically, only 2 of those 3 people are proper board positions. The third one is the chaplain, which is not in the bylaws as an officer of the organization. So they're using 3 people, but it's really only 2 legal positions. But they passed 11 resolutions last night because Lou has on his thing that he's got all these resolutions that he's passed. Well, how hard is it to pass resolutions when it's 3 people and you're 1/3 of them? This is a rubber stamp. And who would pass 11 resolutions in one night? The purpose of a resolution is a declaration of something. Now you got to, that's not the end of it. That's the beginning of it. Now you have to go and work that. You have to go and fight for that to happen.
Are you saying, Bob, that
how would you do that with 11?
Bob, are you saying that he
can't even work one? Yeah, go ahead.
To the membership and let them know about these resolutions? The membership didn't know that these resolutions were going to pass, or they didn't, like they weren't aware of it, so passing resolutions without the support of the entire membership? Or is he passing just what would technically be, or what would realistically be popular resolutions, and he's passing them just as PR?
Yeah. I haven't read all 11, obviously. I don't know if I would agree with every word of all 11 of them, but for the most part, I'm sure that I would probably agree with them. But there might be some things that I would want to tweak. I was not afforded that opportunity. I want to
debate on the resolutions.
Correct. The executive committee did not weigh in on this. This was just, I think this was done for optics. Look at how many resolutions I passed. You can pass a resolution easily. You got to go work it. Like when I help,
the resolution is passed. The danger is in passing resolutions that people don't support, right? So if there's no debate, I'm a member. I didn't know that there were any resolutions passed. So if they're saying the FRA passes resolution XYZ, and the FRA is an organization of 5,000 people, and so 5,000 people believe the merits of this resolution, but at the same time, 4,998 of the people of the FRA didn't see the resolution, then that kind of is problematic in and of itself.
Correct. But even more so, another danger of passing a resolution for optics only is that you're not working that resolution, which is actually more dangerous than just not passing it, right? Because now it's already done. What are you going to do? Come back 6 months later and say, now I want to push this resolution that we passed 6 months ago? The optics of that is bad. So we shouldn't be passing 11 at a time. We should be passing 1 at a time and working it.
Is also bad because you guys are coming up upon elections. So why not wait to pass resolutions until there's a new leadership team that is gonna,
I wouldn't be opposed to passing them leading up to an election if it was done by the whole executive committee.
How many people are on the executive committee in total?
Your guess is as good as mine. I can't quite figure out how many chapters, but I believe it's 15. We're not allowed to know who these members are. And
by rule?
Not allowed by edict of King Louis that we can't know, because
so he has
we
literally said that you guys are not allowed to know who the other members are.
That's correct. In an email, yes, in an email. In terms of the candidates that are attempting to run, we are not allowed. We are only allowed to know the president of the 15 chapters.
Wait,
and we're not allowed to. We're not supposed to send emails directly to them. Any campaigning that we want to do, we're supposed to send to King Louis, and he'll send it out for us.
Wait. So
also, that's in an email.
That's in an email. He wrote it in black and white. He said that you guys were not allowed to reach out and campaign to the other people. He has to campaign on your behalf, even though he's also a candidate.
That's correct.
So I don't. Okay, so you'll have. Listen, I'm not trying to insult you. I'm not trying to be combative. I'm just having a hard time believing. I'm having a hard time believing it.
And I had a hard time believing it too.
So, I mean, this is the organization that basically has blossomed in the light or in the shadow of the RPOF, which was trying to stymie elections and participations. And so now he's
This
not
is an
allowing you
election
to essentially
integrity
get-
organization. That's correct.
Okay. So I really wish that he would have come on tonight. I would love to be able to ask him directly. I would love for him to be able to challenge that and say, that's not true. I did not say that. In fact, what I did was I gave everyone the emails to all the presidents of the state. And I said, hey, have at it. This is an honest and fair. We're going to do exactly what the RPOF did. We're going to do the exact opposite. But that's not the case.
No. He did the list of the presidents, the 15 county presidents. He gave us that.
15 chapters of the FRA throughout the state of Florida.
I don't know how we dropped down to that, but we were set to be 20. But I've spoken to many of the 6 that I know of that have dropped off in the last year, and it's all for about the same reason. Top down.
6 chapters of the FRA.
Yep.
Recently. Wow.
I would say in the last year, maybe year and a half, starting with Charlotte County, which I can't remember if that was March or May, something like that of last year. So yes, a year and a half. Let's say.
Last year. Okay.
Yeah, say in the last year and a half.
Okay,
Six that I've identified. There may be more that I didn't know about.
So your campaign goals are essentially to turn it into an organization that is run by the committee, by the executive committee, which is obviously the members of that executive committee are supposed to be reaching down to their members and then heeding the voice of their members. And then you guys are supposed to execute the duties that have been prescribed by the executive committee, right?
Campaign.
Okay.
Yeah, that is exactly my campaign. That I am campaigning to make the executive committee my boss. That's exactly what I'm campaigning. So that every county president and the state directors, which technically aren't in the bylaws, but it's the model that we've been operating since I came online 2 years ago, is that there's 2 state directors from every county and the county president, three representatives on this executive committee. So I call that 45 people.
Yeah. So let's reintroduce Robin Lumb. Robin Lumb, who you heard at the top of the show, is running for vice president of the Florida Republican Assembly. You are from Duval County, right, Robin? And obviously, Duval County is first of all, it's a large county, right? It's a large county with a large city, and Jacksonville, and it's a battlefield, right? It's a battlefield between left and right. It's a battlefield between true conservatives and the rhinos that control the Republican Party in Jacksonville for the most part, and contentious. A little bit about what your goals are in that county, or for the organization as vice president. What makes you a good candidate? What made you want to do this?
Well, let me kind of correct something here. We had a terrible party chair in Dean Black. Absolutely awful. I won't go into detail, but I think a lot of people know about Dean's reputation. And we worked for a year and a half and I began the effort by pointing out that all the things that he had done in the Republican primary election to smear his opponent, who was a Marine Corps officer.
He's the slimy used car salesman of the Republican Party.
And he's and as a party chair, he ruled with an iron fist. So moving on. I dissolved my chapter in Duval County I had 70 plus members who had just been elected to the Duval REC. And if we hadn't dissolved the Duval County Republican Assembly, Evan Power, I'm convinced, would have moved to remove most of those people from the Duval REC, and our slate of reform candidates who we've been working with for over a year to get elected would have lost. But the good guys won.
I'm glad that you said that, because that was a question, right? I think that one of the negative things that people have said about your campaign is that you dissolve this organization. And the other bad thing that they said, not to interrupt, I'll give you your time back, right? But they also said that, you had, or that money was misappropriated in some way, shape, or form. I think those are 2 concerns that I've heard about your campaign.
If anybody ever says money was misappropriated, I'll sue them. I'll sue them for defamation. They haven't said that. They've asked.
I read an email that was from the treasurer of the FRA in Duval, and she cleared your name. She said that there was absolutely zero money that was misspent or misallocated, and
Exactly.
that it was 100% unanimous. It was not 100% unanimous. It was unanimous in how every penny of that was spent. And that was to further the case of the FRA.
Lou Marin, in an email, pretends that this comes as a surprise to him. He knew exactly what we did. We basically cleared out the treasury just before we dissolved the corporation. It was a unanimous vote of the board of directors, so we could pay Rachel Rodriguez her bill. So it was like $2,975 from the chapter. It was $2,900 from some members of the chapter who were very generous, and it was over $6,000 from me. So we paid $12,000 plus legal expenses, court fees, blah, blah, blah. And Lou knows this. Lou knew exactly why we were closing the chapter. Peter did. I explained to him in detail that we had to do this. If we hadn't done that and our reform slate of candidates had lost, the FRA would have been blamed for it, and our reputation would have been permanently damaged. So it was
real quick, Robin. I have a question for you, Robin. Did Lou and Peter express any issue with you closing down your chapter to fund this lawsuit when you did it?
I closed down the chapter to avoid having my members removed from the REC, and I explained it to them, and I don't recall any significant pushback. And I explained it to them in detail. There was another reason too. If we had allowed the corporation to remain intact and I had engaged in litigation with the RPOF, they could have sued our corporation, which would have required us to hire an attorney. And I didn't want to do that. I wanted to represent myself pro se. Turned out we later on were able to use the attorney for the from the Florida Republican Assembly, Rachel Rodriguez. But there is also a strategic reason for doing that to avoid having to hire an attorney, which I'm convinced they would have sued our local chapter in some sort of counterclaim. Anyway, they knew what we were doing. They knew why we were doing it. They were happy that we were paying a portion of Rachel's fees. Like I said, we raised and spent over $12,000. So for Lou to pretend that this suddenly comes as a surprise, is disingenuous. As far as the hint that funds were not accounted for, I think that's the terminology they used. Were these funds accounted for? If we've accounted for them, you saw the email from Annie Glenn Kirby, who was our treasurer. She wrote every check. Every check was authorized. And at the end of the day, we cleaned out the bank account so we could fund the lawsuit. And they know that. But if anybody says that we misappropriated money, I want them to understand right now, they will be sued. I will sue them for defamation.
One of the things that I think is important to understand is that this is a lawsuit that everybody was talking about, right? We were all talking about this lawsuit in the FRA, what the results were going to be across the state. People were interested in the outcome of this lawsuit. So it wasn't like a lawsuit that benefited you personally. It was a lawsuit that the members across the state were depending on so that they could stay involved in the RECs, continue the fight there, and at the same time have the autonomy in the FRA without losing one or the other.
Well, and so there's been a whisper campaign about me since before the convention. People are saying is, well, he only filed that lawsuit so he could get back on the REC. That's nonsense. I filed a lawsuit because I was removed from the Duval County REC for being the chairman of the Duval County Republican Assembly, and I sued them over the issue of whether or not the word Republican could possibly be the proprietary, the property of the RPOF. But now they're trying to twist it. That this is, I did this for a self-serving reason. And I've told people, if I get back on the REC, I'm going to quit because I'm not going to sign the new loyalty pledge. I'm not going to, but I was trying to make a point. The point I was trying to make, and this also applied to Connie Bruni down in Sarasota, was that the process that they used to remove us was unlawful. It was contrary to Florida law.
And it was contrary to their bylaws. It was contrary to decency. It was contrary to our American understanding of fairness and justice. And it was really contrary to anything positive. It was 100% aligned with corruption and election stealing, and just the whole reason that we were all upset and became members of the FRA was because of the way that the RPOF was acting. And I think that we've all, at this point, we all understand that the RPOF was happy with that outcome. They wanted us gone. They did not want us there and happy. They wanted us all gone anyways, so that they can continue acting with the brand of RPOF, acting as if they are the conscience, the heart of the Republican Party, when in fact they're the cancer of the Republican Party. So, so this lawsuit was important to all of us. It was not just important to you. It was not important just to Jacksonville. This was something that was extremely important to all FRA members throughout. And I necessarily, so I was a founding member of the FRA in Osceola County, but I was not a member of the leadership. So I didn't have like eyes on the entire process, but I knew that I wanted you guys to win. I was disappointed that it was essentially a stalemate at the end of the day. There's a lot of reasons why that might have happened. And I'm sure that if they continued suing and it continued going up the ladder, that you guys would eventually win. You know, I'm not a lawyer. I have a law degree, but I'm not a lawyer. But it just seems like it's unreasonable, the outcome of this lawsuit. So I don't know that they want to sue anymore. I don't think that they want this.
I don't think they do. And one of the things, Lou Marin, I was at I'm actually a member now of the Baker County Republican Assembly, which is the county right next door to us, just west of Duval. And that's why I'm able to run for a state office. But I was at their meeting on Tuesday, and Lou Marin was there. And Lou was saying that, you know, he has people that he talks to inside the RPOF who say that they're definitely planning a lawsuit. I don't buy that. I think the RPOF has seen the handwriting on the wall, that if they try to sue for the use of the word Republican, they're going to lose.
So here's one thing. Okay, so let me talk about this. Is one of the reasons why I really wish I kind of took your time away from you. I was asking questions. I'm curious about, you know, these matters. So let me ask you, what is your goal for the FRA?
Well, let me. My goal is basically Bob's goal. What we would like to see is an organization where autonomy is returned to the chapters, where it's the chapters who are making the decisions, and it's the executive, the elected members, elected board, are the ones serving the chapters. And so I've operated 2 successful small commercial printing businesses. I've been an executive business owner, manager. I understand the concept of a flat organizational structure. You got to have some hierarchy, but the whole idea is to build out the organization at the chapter level, not to neuter them. But my contentions, let me kind of summarize here, that my arguments so far in my campaign with Lou have been twofold. First of all, he sent out an email that said the election was going to be for a president, vice president, secretary, and treasurer. And I said, hold on, that's not what the bylaws of the Florida Republican Assembly say. They say president, first vice president, second vice president, secretary, treasurer, and 2 national directors. 7, all elected positions, instead of the 4 that he was talking about. And so my understanding is that Lou has relented, and he's now going to make sure that the election is for all 7 elected positions. The other bone
I can talk to that real quick, Robin. I actually spoke to Lou tonight when I talked to him about, you know, that he was unable to make this call, and I did ask for clarification on that, and he said that it is actually 5 positions that we'll be voting on for the FRA elections, and it is president, vice president, treasurer, secretary, and chaplain.
That's what he said today?
That's what he said tonight. To me,
then he's
violation of the bylaws.
Total violation of the bylaws, and let me ask Bob Valenta that he's reversing himself now, correct?
I'm getting dizzy I really am. Like, it's like every day that Lou Marin wakes up and rolls out of bed.
Your sound.
So
no, he's there.
So he can't do that.
Okay.
All right. So let me. The second bone of contention is that he has been working on a set of chapter bylaws that he is sent out to everybody, and basically says these are the new amended bylaws. This is what we're going to have, or this is what we're going to vote on. Bear with me here. Let me read something to you. I have 2 paragraphs to read from the bylaws of the Florida Republican Assembly, which are available online at the FRA website. So we have, excuse me here, we have section 804, structures. A local Republican assembly shall have jurisdiction within the boundaries of, no, I'm sorry, hold on, I messed up. Every Republican assembly shall ratify and agree to be bound by all things by the bylaws of the Florida Republican Assembly and the NFRA, as well as amendments thereto. Acceptance of a charter from the FRA by any local Republican assembly shall constitute a binding contract in this regard. So when you accept a charter, you have bound yourself contractually to observe the laws of the Florida Republican Assembly. There is an additional provision.
I hate that. That is atrocious. And I'll tell you why. That's exactly like the new oath for the Republican Party, where you are surrendering your Americanism to the leadership of someone else whose judgment may be good or bad, and whose judgment changes over time.
But it's, when you join, you get to look at the FRA bylaws. So you make a decision, yay or nay, to join at that time. But what's interesting about this is it says it's a binding contract on local chapters. So local chapters cannot act in a manner or support anybody who is acting in a manner that's operating contrary to the bylaws. Now, here's what it says in section 805. Each Republican Assembly shall adopt its own bylaws, which shall be in conformance with the FRA and NFRA bylaws, and shall be subject to review by the board of directors of the FRA and the NFRA. Now, that says review. It doesn't say approval. So the whole idea behind the idea, this is why we emphasize autonomy. These chapters are supposed to be writing their own bylaws. They're not supposed to be written by Lou Marin and not imposed from the top down. Now, if Lou wants to draft a set of guidelines or quote unquote model county bylaws, maybe yes, but not what he's doing. That's where my disagreements are with Lou. That what he's doing right now is in violation of the FRA's bylaws, which are very clear.
Maybe yes,
I think
if
that
the
an issue
executive
that I have
committee.
is that you should be able to have dissent, right? Our system should be open for dissent. So if you contractually bind yourself to agreeing to what they say in advance of any conversation, then what is the point of the FRA? They don't need members. All they need is the executive committee, if that's the case.
Let me carry this a little further. So you can amend the state bylaws, but there's a very specific process. It's supposed to be done at the state convention. And so they missed that opportunity. And any changes to the bylaws are supposed to be submitted 50 days prior to the convention. And they're supposed to be published, and people are supposed to be aware of them. So there is a process. So if there's something wrong with the state bylaws, we can change them. But that's not what's happening. And what they're doing right now is they're ignoring the bylaws in terms of the number of elected positions, and they're trying to enforce or trying to require the adoption of chapter bylaws, which are really the purview of each individual chapter.
So
that's the whole idea behind chapter autonomy.
Bob, you had something you were saying, correct? Bob, do you hear me?
Remember where I don't remember what I was on at the time.
Oh, okay.
You hear Bob,
all right,
Mike was. I don't hear Bob.
You don't hear him? No, I hear him just fine.
Hear me?
Yes, absolutely. I hear you.
Okay, great. I hope that's it.
Yeah. Well, I was just going to remind people that the phone number is scrolling by. We are accepting phone calls tonight. So if you want to ask a question to either Robin or Bob, you are free to do so. You can call the number. It's 407-569-7111. You can also comment on whatever platform you are watching the show on right now. You can ask a question. We will pose it to them, and
receive a call, just so that everybody knows. I missed the call. I wasn't paying attention. But yeah, let me text that person and they can call back. So
All right.
If anybody wants to just call in and comment on these top-down bylaws,
they call back. So, gentlemen, let me ask. I'm kind of surprised to hear a lot of this. You know, when I left the Republican Party, REC, and when I left the Republican Party to become the chairman of the America First Party, Florida, intolerant. The idea that I would leave the Republican Party because of what it was doing, come to the FRA, and then have the FRA do something similar, or even anything in the vicinity of what the RPOF did, is unforgivable to me. Like as I said, I really wish that Lou was on here so that he could answer these questions. Maybe we'll have Lou on before the election so that he can explain his side on why he's doing. I hope that that's not the case. So tell me about what's going on with individually in your two situations. Passing laws just before an election, even passing resolutions just before an election, is not cool. That's not the way you're supposed to do something. If you saw that all of a sudden President Trump, and we have seen it, right? We've seen it even worse. We saw Obama spy and try to derail the entire administration of the United States. But at the same time, you're not supposed to be passed to pressure people to improve the economy just before an election. You're not supposed to trade with knowledge of that you receive in Congress, right? To make trades. You're not supposed to do those things. So it's okay that it's not a, it's not a law, it's not illegal, it's not whatever, but it's not okay to do it, in my opinion. And so I to change the rules before an election is not good. To pass the resolutions before an election is not good. Tell me a little bit more about the circumstances of you. From what I understand, that it's possible that you are not allowed to run. Is that right, Robin?
I don't see that as a possibility. I don't. Some people have looked at the new bylaws for the local chapters and have tried to read into that I might not be allowed to run, but I haven't been told that. And if that's what Lou's intent is, then he would have an absolute duty to let me know.
It's going to be a really bad look for Lou to pull that.
The minute that the rule changes affected you, he should have called you and said, "Hey, these rule changes impact you, Robin," and so on and so forth. All right.
Well,
yeah, I don't see it
guys,
that way.
I do have an update on that, because when I did speak to Lou tonight, I did ask him some questions because I wanted the clarification. I wanted to know what was going on with this. And as far as this bylaw, and the concerning one of these recent bylaws is this section 5.03, officer qualifications, eligibility, and removal. The question was if subsection A and subsection B were separate, if subsection A just applied to local chapters, and subsection B, if that applied to state and local chapters. And I asked Lou for clarification. He did say that both of these subsections apply to both state and local chapters. So if you're running for a state position, this applies to you. And if you are part of a local chapter, this applies to you as well.
That's news to me. That's not the way I read it. I'll try to get clarification from Lou. But if that's the case, then he had an absolute duty to disclose that. By the way, they took $900 from me for a full-page ad in the convention program, apparently knowing full well. I was thinking at the time the election was going to be at the state convention, knowing full well that the elections were about to be canceled, and apparently that they have concocted the scheme to keep me from running, which is not. It's not going to be a good look for the FRA. It's just not.
I think that all the members, every member of the FRA has an interest in making sure that the elections are free and fair. I'll be honest with you. I mean, I'll be frank. I think that Lou has a head start, right? Incumbents normally do. And Lou has a head start. He's got all the contacts that are in the party. He has the apparatus, the ability to speak during all the functions and so on. He's already got a head start. You don't have to move the needle by changing the rules to make it harder for other people to run. It's just, it's not the way. All right.
Horrible look.
Tom, you're also running for a position on the board.
I am. I'm running for
goals? What are the reasons that
secretary.
you're running?
I'm running
And
because
what do you want to achieve as secretary?
well, for those who watch the show on a regular basis, I never really disclose my association with the Florida Republican Assembly. Here and there I have, but I don't always do that. But yes, I am the current president of the Osceola County Conservative Republican Assembly. We call ourselves ACRA. And the running is, I just feel like Osceola County does not have a voice at the state level. We haven't for forever. And, we're in a very blue county. We're trying to get out. We're making strides in that direction. We're becoming red. We're actually becoming purple. We even had Doug Kaplan, national pollster, confirm that to us at our last meeting, our ACRA meeting. So, but the one thing that I noticed the most about the assembly right now is that communication is lacking. The only communication that we have within the assembly is through Lou. And, before the convention, and I've only been the president since January, but I've been involved in leadership within this chapter since its inception. I just can't believe that the communication between chapters is non-existent. I had no idea of who was president of each chapter. I had no idea that chapters had shuttered. These are things that we need to know as presidents. We need communication between chapters. I would like to know what Lee County is doing in their chapter. I would like to know what Baker County is doing in their chapter, because that might inspire me and give me ideas. That might be a chance for us to come together. And I think that a more united, a better communication between chapters will unite us even more and make us a much stronger force within the state of Florida. Right now, we have no communication. Our state website hasn't been updated in a very long time. I mean, on the front page of the state website is still showing Osceola County's 1-year anniversary, and we're going into our 3rd year. So I believe that communication needs to come down. As secretary, I will send out constant emails, just like my secretary, Leslie Gray, does. And she does a fantastic job, by the way. Thank you, Leslie. I know you're watching right now. I want to make sure that every chapter is informed of what the other chapters are doing, what state leadership is doing, and just make sure that communication is there and it's constant.
Can I interject?
Yeah, absolutely.
Let me read from the FRA's bylaws. This is qualifications for state officers. This is section 503 qualifications. A, officers of the Florida Republican Assembly and of all local chapters must be members in good standing of the FRA and Republicans by voter registration. That's it. Those are the qualifications to run. It's in the bylaws.
Not anymore.
So the question is
illegally.
Come down. It's going to come down to is Lou actually going to rewrite the bylaws, which he can't do. And the reason I referred earlier to that clause about contractual is to point out that local chapters have entered into a contractual relationship to honor the FRA bylaws. So by contract, they are obligated to follow those bylaws and not to vote in a manner that's contrary to the bylaws. That's why I brought that point up. And it was because it was very interesting that they had that language.
Right? In both directions.
Say in both directions,
have a contract on one side where someone has to adhere to a set of contract language, and then the other person does not have any responsibilities in the contract. We have a call. Let's take this call. I have not screened this call at all. I took a name. The name is Stephanie Cox. Stephanie, can you hear me?
Yeah.
And can you guys hear Stephanie?
Yeah.
Yes, I can.
Hold on one second. Okay. So Stephanie, go ahead. Where are you? What county are you calling from? And tell us.
Volusia.
Volusia.
Um,
Okay, tell us what's going on in
Volusia.
Volusia.
Well, it's passed now, but it has to do with the FRA. I was a member of 3 different FRA clubs. Vice president needed to step up to president once the president resigned, although I wasn't allowed to do that, and my actually bank account was stolen by Lou and
What?
Peter Caracas. Yes.
Wow.
They bullied the treasurer until he gave it to him. The bank gave it to him, and the bank should not have, because I was already on the bank card. We were going that day to put all the signatures on one card. They gave it to a treasurer who had resigned. He didn't really resign. We kind of said he had too much too much on his plate, because Peter had threatened him that he would have him arrested if he resigned. They're such bullies.
Okay,
And
so you
they
don't mean that he
did.
stole? He did not steal personally. That's not the accusation that you're making, right?
He still stole money that did not belong to him. He bullied the man into giving it to him, the treasurer.
Okay, but you're saying that he stole it, but really what he did was pressure them into giving them control over the bank account, right?
No, the bank threw up their hands and said they wanted nothing to do with it because there had been so many changes. There were people on that had been president 2 terms before. It was a mess.
Okay, and so they were just
So
they
I-
might have had good intentions in
No, they
doing
didn't.
this, right? It's possible.
No, it's not. We donated $1,000 to the legal funds, but there was near 7,000. I think it was 68 something. That's 7,000 to me. But anyhow, they did end up with that money, and that was not theirs because we are a bottom-up organization. They had no right to that money.
Wow.
Period.
Okay, so
So I was interested in what Robin was saying about his 900 and promised to advertise and then didn't. So I would ask them for money back. It just seems to me that both of them are fraudulent people. They don't act with their own bylaws.
Well, if
Yeah.
I ask for the money back,
Now, the one that you had on the screen that Robin, that you were reading
Mhm.
back to Robin, and he said that he felt he should have been notified by Lou. Did that have to do with residing in the county?
Is that a question to me?
yeah. I think
Yes,
it was,
Robin, I believe it is.
No,
Yeah.
no,
So
no. I was.
they do try to enforce that. They tried to enforce that on me for stepping up to president.
Well, that's
I
not
didn't
that's not a.
reside in the right end of the county, because we have like 5 districts in Volusia County,
Well, that's not a requirement under the
supposed,
bylaws.
according to Peter.
Okay. Okay. Thank you so much for calling. I really appreciate it. I would just to clear it up, we're not making any personal accusations. I doubt that I think that we misunderstood, but I get your point that there was some issues there. The state organization trying to take over the bank account of the local organization. And is Volusia still working? Is the Volusia chapter that you were a part of still open?
No,
And no, it closed.
no, because there was no money to operate. But there is another club in Ormond
Mhm.
that recently left the FRA. That was one I belonged to,
And why did they leave the FRA?
because of these new resolutions.
Okay, well. Okay, thank you so much. I really appreciate you calling in.
Okay.
Obviously, I had not heard any of that. So it's
To Bob and I followed the RPOF and versus the FRA.
yeah, you
So,
guys donated money, so
well, I'm pretty sure that's where our 7,000 went.
okay.
Wow.
That's what I think, but there's no way to
no.
track it that I know of because it's it was a certified check, so they just wanted the money out of their bank.
Yeah.
I don't see how they could do that
Okay.
when
Anyhow.
your
Oh,
chapter. Oh, Tom can't hear me. That
I
makes
know.
me
No, I
sorry.
can. I
It's a
can.
lot. It's
Yeah.
a lot. I was trying to get in, but I was concerned about why they were saying he
John
wouldn't be
can't hear me.
qualified to run.
Yeah.
They make their rules up as they go.
Okay. Thank you so much, Ms. Cox. I really appreciate the call.
Hey,
Okay.
Bob, what were
Thank
you
you.
saying,
Have a good
Bob?
night.
Bye.
Bob, what were
Yeah,
you
what
saying?
I was saying is I don't understand. I don't understand how they could do this because that county chapter is its own 527 nonprofit corporation filed with Sunbiz in Florida. So how could another corporation come in and say, we're taking that money? That baffles me.
No.
Like,
Yeah.
if that had happened to my county, we definitely would have been going to court.
Yeah.
That was all I had to add on that.
No. I mean, yeah, I hadn't heard really this whole story.
What Bob is saying, so you're gonna have to repeat them to me, Tom.
Yeah, he said that there are 527. So how is it that they were able to come in and take over that chapter's money?
I can't hear anything.
You can't hear
Did I lose
anything
my
at all.
sound?
Yeah, I think you did. All right, so yeah, Robin, she asked you a question
Robin, can you
about
hear me?
moving over to another county
Robin,
or something about that,
Can you
or
hear- can
trying
anyone hear
to.
anything? Uh-oh. Did we lose
No,
sound here?
yeah, everybody hears you, John.
Yeah,
You
we
just
can
don't
all,
hear
we can
us.
all hear him. He can't hear us.
Robin?
Yeah.
I can hear John. So is there a question
Can
for me?
anyone hear anything?
Tom, can you
Yes.
text John and let him know that we can all hear him?
I
but he
just
can't hear
did.
us?
I just did. I just did, guys. I texted him. Robin. So yeah, she asked you a question
Yes.
if they're trying to force you into a situation because you are in Baker County and not in Duval anymore, or something to that effect.
I'm like Bob. I never know what's going to happen. So what you're sharing with me this evening is all news to me. That they're going to try to use that to keep me from running. I joined the Baker County Republican Assembly about 2 weeks before the state convention, maybe 10 days. The secretary notified Peter by email that I had joined, that I had paid my dues, and I was now a member of the Baker County Republican Assembly. I had Peter acknowledge that. And by the way, Lou was copied in all this. So I'm a member of the Baker County Republican Assembly. But if they're going to impose this 2-year requirement, they're trying to use amendments to the chapter bylaws, which they're not supposed to do anyway, but they're trying to use those amendments to affect and amend the state bylaws. So this whole thing is, I used to be, years ago, I was president of the Jacksonville Junior Chamber of Commerce. We were the second largest JC chapter in the world. We basically operated from consensus. We had our bylaws and whatever, but it was a straight up organization. I have never, and I've been a county commissioner. I was the director of policy for the city of Jacksonville for 7 years. Worked with a lot of attorneys, saw a lot of contracts, all kinds of stuff. I have never, if this is what Lou is planning to have play out, I have never seen this much deception and perfidy coming from one individual. It's almost it's off the scale.
Evan Power and Bill Helmuth.
Well,
each
yeah,
individually.
there you go.
Right.
So is Lou now an honorary member of the Evan Power Power Elite Club? I don't know, but if this is what he's got to do to win an election, he must be running scared. He must understand that there is a lot of sentiment out there that is concerned about Lou's top-down conduct. By the way, Lou deserves a great deal of credit for all that he's done, his work, his energy, all of that. Let's not take away from what Lou has done, because he's done great things.
The FRA to the next level.
Yeah.
Right.
When people were looking for a new home.
And by enlarging the executive board, for example, I'm in North Florida. If I were elected vice president, I would ask the president, hopefully it will be Bob, look, let me have North Florida as my territory. So back in the days of the JCs, we were divided into districts around the state, and so we had district directors, and so I would effectively become, in name only, a district director, and I would work on setting up chapters in Clay, Nassau, Columbia County. I've got some inroads in Putnam, and do it that way. But I don't know why Lou is so afraid of me, because if my only goal would be to, if I were on the board and Lou happened to be president, I wouldn't be there to be an obstructionist, but I would be there to disagree with him if I thought he was wrong. And I don't think we have that right now in leadership in the FRA, because we only have 3 people.
Yeah. Can I take a minute and talk about John Ward's phone call to me a few days before the convention?
And I think
Tell me who John Ward is.
Isn't that the question of the hour? Nobody seems to know him, yet he claims to be a long time, whatever long time means, member of the FRA. Chuck Collins told me that no, he just joined in January. But maybe Chuck doesn't have that right. I don't know. But John called me, said, "Yeah, I'm John Ward. I'm running for vice president. Lou and Peter have endorsed me, and they asked me to run. And I'm friends with Evan Power and Bill Helmich, and I have hang on, let me get this through this. I have set up a meeting for them next month. Now, this was back in August, so sometime in September, he has a meeting set up to broker a deal with Evan Power." And then another county president told, wait, no, John, wait, there's a part B. Let me get to part B so you can soak it all in.
Oh, yeah.
Then
My brain is frying just from
well,
go on.
No, then get ready to be nuked. Another county president had a similar phone call from John Ward, and he told him that when Peter and Lou approached John to be the VP, John said that he would do it, but on the condition that he could have, I don't remember the exact word he said, not unfettered, but something like unfettered, like full authority to negotiate with Evan Power. And Lou said, okay.
Okay, so for one, we don't know the veracity of that report, right? Because it's secondhand. I'd love to have the person that had that conversation come on the show and say that they directly had that conversation with him.
I'll set that up.
I would love to. I would love to hear it from the horse's mouth. We have another asked to join the show. Our good friend, member of the FRA here, and so on. We're gonna bring him on in a second, but I just want to address what you're saying, and I want to clarify. John Ward's position, according to these reports, would be that the FRA negotiate, and he having full authority to whatever capacity they discussed to negotiate with the RPOF for what purpose? To become chartered with them, or to become aligned with them, realigned with them?
Right, because Evan Powers made it clear chartering under the RPOF is the only option. So what other negotiation would there be? But broker a deal, I think, was exactly the terms that John Ward used with me.
That would be a gigantic betrayal.
Right. It is a gigantic betrayal.
Would mean that would be a full conversion to what the RPOF did, acting with the same, and that would, here's the thing, thinking about this, that would be a great reason why he would change. It would be an excuse. They would change the rules to prevent, like Robin Lumb running, for example, so that they can go back to the RPOF because they're using the same footprint, the same pathway. They're stepping in the footprints of RPOF down that same path of rigging an election so that they can get what they want accomplished.
Yep.
And that
all starts to make sense.
That is disastrous for the FRA. And if that happens, I would walk away from the FRA without hesitation. I think that's completely disgusting. Go ahead, Robin, and then I'm going to bring in Jim.
Let me just say something, too, that if Mr. Ward has been talking to Evan Power all along while the lawsuit was underway, that would be a gross breach of ethics. That would indicate an extraordinary lack of judgment. And anybody who is talking to Evan Power while the lawsuit is underway is by definition not qualified to serve this organization.
Oh my God. Now what you say that, is that speculation, or you have reason to believe that there were conversations going on while the attorney of the FRA was in a lawsuit against the RPOF?
From what Bob has told me, I have no reason to believe that. I think he told Bob that he had been talking to the RPOF, and until there's a declaration from Mr. Ward that those conversations didn't begin until after the lawsuit ended, I'd like to hear that. But you can ask.
I get your point. That's a good. So basically, he is having conversations. At what point did those begin? And if it began during any conversations, yes.
Perfectly clear. What he said was he has Evan and Bill's phone numbers in his phone and talks to them from time to time. So, but he did not say that he has been talking to. So
had already spoken with them.
Money, I have to call it speculation. Okay, yeah. But strong speculation.
Yeah, I don't know. So I'm not saying it's definitive one way or the other, but it's something I'd like to have the answer to.
It would be foolish to bring somebody in to say we're going to go and negotiate with RPOF, having the full authority to come to some kind of agreement, like he's the Secretary of State on behalf of the king of the FRA and the members, without getting clearance beforehand, because that is something to the degree where you would go to your members and say, listen, this is our situation. We went to the lawsuit. We stalemated. Do we go back to the RPOF and charter, or do we say go to hell to the RPOF and we continue down our own path? And then you get the members' opinions, and then you execute the will of the members, right? That would be correct in my opinion. Let's bring in Jim here.
Hey, John, before you bring in Jim, I have one last comment on that matter. I want to say this on the record, unequivocally. John Ward, you have no authority to represent Lee County Republican Assembly to the RPF or anyone else.
I'm just gonna say this. Then I'm gonna say, listen, whatever happens to all you Republicans out there, whatever happens to all you Republicans, members of the FRA, if let's say, we're just assuming, because I don't know, Lou could not come on. Lou does not have the ability to defend himself. That's a shame. I wish he had come on the show. I wish that Mr. Ward would have come on the show and they would, take part. I think that would have been very valuable. It would have been great to hear their own voices and them to be able to dispute what you guys are saying. But assuming that under the assumption that everything that you both have said is true and correct, then all of you, that a lot of people are going to leave FRA too, right? Membership of the FRA would be cut in half. I would imagine. You guys are all welcome at the America First Party of Florida, because this is the only time, right? This is the only party left. It's the only hope left where you can have conservatism without corruption. And I can say that full-heartedly, because that is absolutely grotesque. That's exactly what I'm tired of. And for some reason, the people, if you're raised, I'll let you on. I'm going to introduce Jim, and then I'll let you speak, Robin. But here's the problem. When you've been in bed with a pig for so long, you're going to get fat and you're going to stink. And that's the problem. Republicans have been led by pigs for so long that it's almost like, even me, speaking for myself as a former Republican, we no longer had the expectation of a high moral ground, right? Or of following the ethical path that you speak in your platform. It doesn't exist. We don't have the expectation. Oh, we expect for these guys to be doing all kinds of crazy stuff. I just don't understand. It's time to hold people accountable. It's time to hold ourselves to a higher standard. Let's bring Jim on. Let's say hello to Jim.
John, real quick before we bring Jim in, real quick.
Yep.
Real quick before we bring in Jim, I do want to address some of this stuff. Yeah, yeah, you will. Yeah, you will. So, I did ask Lou about this tonight. I did ask Lou about this tonight. I did ask him about John
You
Ward.
to interrupt at
and,
any point in time with pertinent information, Tom.
well, I mean, it's hard to get it through, but anyway, I did ask him about this. He did say that Dr. Ward talked to Bill Helmick, that Bill Helmick told him that we have to charter under the RPOF, and that Lou told Dr. Ward to tell Bill Helmick to stick it, and that Lou said that there's no way we would have any deal with them until they change leadership. And I said, well, that is a concern, is that we are not, especially for us here in Osceola, and I spoke for our chapter only, I said there's no way that we would have any deal with the RPOF unless Evan Power and Bill Helmick are gone, because there's no way for us.
Good for you. But let me say this. To me, as far as I'm concerned, that's the right answer. But just let me say this. What is the difference and what is the point if they're going to have the same type of election problems that the RPOF does?
That's the problem there. That's the problem. If this election goes down, and the issue is this: if the bylaws pass as is with Section 5.03, and Robin Lumb is disqualified from running, I kind of have a problem with that. Because it just doesn't seem like after taking his money
I don't care what your
and
name is,
not even saying anything to him.
You can call yourself the giant gorillas, but if your elections for your group are corrupt, then what's the point? You're the same thing. It's the same thing.
Yeah.
Right. That's what we're escaping, is the corruption. That's what we're trying to escape. That's what we're refugees of, is the Republican Party corruption. Okay, let's bring in Jim. I'm dying to hear what Jim said. Jim called in, so let's get Jim on here and let's find out what Jim's got to say. Gentlemen, we'll be right back with you.
All right. Let me bring in Jim. Where's Jim? Hold on, I gotta bring him back in manually. Hold on. Because he was gone for so long that
that, let me just say that that these rhinos need sore throats, either by a rope or a guillotine.
Whoa.
Traitors are traitors.
yeah, it's trying.
Gets a solo
There he
window.
is.
Here
There
you go,
he
Jim
is.
Trouts. Into a solo window. There he is.
Jim,
There he is. Jim,
I'm
welcome to
so
Unsanctioned
sorry,
Florida.
Jim. You
Tell us
look
what's going on.
terrible, man. I'm sorry.
Well, thanks. I appreciate that comment.
That's one way to say thank you for your service in the Navy.
Yeah. Well, listen,
Sorry, Jim.
I've been listening to the conversation, and that's okay. I think I have a little bit of a different take on it than some of you guys might have with regard to the FRA and what's going on. I have long been a believer that the FRA is not actually the target of the RPOF. The FRA is the means by which the RPOF is using to purge different members, targeted members from the individual RECs and from their RPOF rules. And here's why I say that. I find it awful interesting that in Osceola County, first of all, Mark Ross, who's the former chairman of Osceola County Republican Executive Committee, he's also the chairman of Grievance Committee. How convenient, okay? Second thing is, there used to be a couple key members that were on the board that were part of the Orange County FRA. By the way, the FRA that Lou's the president of, okay? One of them was a former state committee man who did a horrible job at his job. In fact, he used to be chairman, and to tell you how bad he was replaced by Mark Cross, who was replaced after, yeah. And then we had the secretary that was also a member. Now, they were both members of the FRA, But what happened is nobody seemed to have a problem with them. So when Mark Cross went out with this hit list, their names weren't on it. But yet my name was on it. Cindy's name was on it. There were scores of other people whose name was on that hit list. And I know that to be true because at least 3 of the board members from Osceola County told me that's what he did. Okay. So
Cindy was like a volunteer of the year.
And
yes.
you know what, Jim, not to interrupt you, but we have talked about this, me and you, a couple of times, that it seemed like, because let's face it, the RPOF does not have the member list for the FRA. They have no idea who is a member and who isn't. They might know who leadership is within a chapter, but they don't know who the individual members are. But it seemed like they were targeting people that were running for precinct committee men and committee women.
When I'm back.
Correct.
Can you hear me?
You guys are talking over each other.
Anybody else besides Jim?
Can you hear me? This is Robin.
Of you. I
Go
can't
ahead,
hear Tom.
Go ahead,
Can't hear Tom.
Oh, sorry.
So do we have circuit overload again?
Yeah, I think so.
Yes, I think so.
Why don't you
and I think
finish
we
what you were
lost
saying,
John.
and then we'll let John
And
know
yes,
when you're
Brian, sorry about that. Oh, you can hear everyone? All right, good. All right, thank you, Brian. Oh, all at the same time. Well, that's not good. But anyway, it was like I was saying, this looks like they were targeting people that were running for precinct committee man and committee woman. I know I was an exiled
Right now,
precinct committeeman for precinct 4200.
Tom
I know
is
that
speaking.
you are in exile, Bob.
Give me a cue when Tom
Jim was in exile, and he is in exile too. It just seems that was the real target, was people they were afraid were coming after the RECs and were going to try and get good people into the RECs.
Yeah. I mean, I know John had another thing he wanted to say after you spoke. I got another point on that right after he's through.
saying that,
okay.
me and Jim and obviously Robin have all been targets of the REC purge.
I still would like to say something about the reference to the American.
Can't hear you.
Absolutely, Robin, go for it.
Another great example of the purge was Trent Wayman. Trent Wayman, who was a duly elected state committee man. He was not a precinct committee man. He was just not a regular member. He was on the ballot, won his state committee man. They came in. He wasn't the only one. There was still, I think it was Connie. Where was Connie Bruni? She was it? She was in the same county.
No,
right?
she's in Sarasota.
She's in Sarasota. Yeah. So we're talking about Manatee and Sarasota. The same thing happened in both those counties. These are good Republican, conservative Republicans who were doing their duty, doing their job, fighting for their country in the realm of politics, and then were expelled because they would not support the leadership in what they were doing with their corrupt elections and their demands for following their tune when it came to electing the local people. And it's just a shame that that's where we're at. It would be a tragedy for the FRA to follow that same model. It would be a tragedy. And it would be the end of the FRA, I would say, right? And they might as well go chapter with the RPOF. And I think that that's why, thinking about what Jim was saying, that might be why the RPOF is attacking the FRA. They're making sure that people leave the FRA, and then the FRA will become compliant just for survival's sake, go to the RPOF, and then leave all these people without a home again. Of course, as I said, always, you guys have a home at the America First Party of Florida, but Republicans will basically fail to have.
Here's the thing, though. Not every FRA was affected, okay? Let's not forget that our brothers and sisters over in Orange County, not a one of them received any kind of letter saying they were out of compliance. Not one of them received a cease and desist letter. The FRA chapter that Lou's the president of did not receive one. And oh, by the way, it just so happens that the chairman of the Orange County GOP happens to be running for House District 45 and is a close personal friend of Lou's. Now, when you add all that up, and listen, you got to know this. The RPOF met us jumping through hoops, doing whatever we could, whatever they said we had to do, we did. We brought up paperwork, we did affidavits, we did all that stuff. To this day, they have never told us, A, who filed a complaint against us, B, when all this was supposed to have occurred, C, they've never adjudicated whatever the problem was. And then now I'm hearing that the former slug that used to be a chairman, says, oh, well, they resigned. Nobody resigned from the RPOF.
One resigned.
Or
They
the
kicked me
RC.
out of the party multiple times. Multiple times they kicked me out of the party for multiple things. Every time I said that's not true and I was going to fight it, they wouldn't give me the due process. What they would do is change the charge, and they would never give me the grievance. They would just tell me that there was a grievance. I never saw a grievance the entire time from 2020 to 2020, because I was kicked out of the party in 2020 and 2021. And I mean, and they kicked me out for the same reason they kicked Jim out, because I was running for chair of the Republican Party.
Well, and that's the reason why I joined the FRA to begin with. That's the reason why that happened. Look, here's the other thing. We complied with their rules as to what needs to be done and how to change the party. We held an election. We gave proper notice. The proper person was running that election. It was all done above board in the timely manner, the way it was supposed to be done, proper notice and everything else. They elected a board. I happened to be elected as chairman. And because they didn't like that, Evan Power swooped in and appointed a bunch of people. I know he didn't know, because we don't even know who they are. So we took a different course of action. I'll explain that in a bit. But, I mean, honestly, and then I see what's going on with the FRA, and I say, my goodness, this is like Yogi Berra would say, deja vu all over again.
Robin, what were you going to say? You were going to say something.
This America First Party, people can do what they want to do. It's a free country. If you want to form your own party and begin accumulating members, that's great. I want to be very clear about something. I am a Republican from the ground up. I am a loyal Republican. I see all kinds of problems with the Republican Party, the institutional Republican Party, but I recognize that if you're going to elect true conservatives, the only vehicle that you have available to you, as distasteful as it could be, is the Republican Party. And I have zero interest in leaving the party. If I could have made life a lot simpler for myself going back to when I began challenging Dean Black by simply packing up my bags and leaving. And I didn't do it. I stayed to fight, and I will continue to fight, and I will always fight. And if you guys want to organize the American First Party, that's your business. I want to make it absolutely clear that is not an option for me. And I would encourage anybody who's considering that to think very clearly about that, because what the RPOF wants to do more than anything is to have its opponents, people like us, quit and leave. I've seen it happen over and over again. You get a bad election. You get a bad election in an REC, and the people that are on the losing side get up, leave, and they quit.
Okay, so in an REC, yes, and that's an important point and an important distinction. They want you to leave the REC because they want to be able to get their own people elected in the primary. They do not want you to leave the party, because the disaster for them and the strategic value of a third party, the America First Party of Florida, is that you will have a Republican, a Democrat, and an America First Party of Florida candidate on a ballot for a state legislature, which means that unless the America First Party, which is full of real conservatives, and the Republican Party have to coordinate in those elections in order to continue winning, because you cannot win with 2/3, right? Going in one side, but splitting. And so the value is you have people like that Jim spoke of, the person running who was the chair. She was the chairman of the GOP in Orange County. She's running for state house. Now, if there's an America First Party there, they really want her bad for whatever reason, right? They want her to win bad. They spent millions of dollars in District 35 with Erica Booth. If we had had an America First candidate, then she would not have won. And she's just as rhino. She was out there against Trump on her Twitter the day before she won the election practically. So there's a strategic value in it. And here's the thing. A true conservative, the fact is, your party is led by Evan Power. It doesn't matter how you feel about it. The people who carry the name, whether a Republican, if you carry a card, here's mine right here, right? Here's my card. I'm gonna hide all the information, but there's my voter card, right? If yours has Republican on there, then your party is led by Evan Power and Bill Helmick, and that is the representation of you as a Republican. If you, as a conservative, if you say you're conservative, and you think that your conservative ideals are power, like I did for so many years, then okay. But I refuse to be represented by Evan Power. I refuse to be represented by Helmick. I refuse to continue giving money, to continue effort, to continue the fight with a guide on. If China came here and they took over the United States, that does not mean I'm going to be wearing a Chinese flag on my shoulder in the armed services for China. I am going to fight for my country, and the Republican Party does not represent the United States. The Republican Party has one task only and one responsibility, and that's to elect Republicans. But the Republicans are failing you in Congress. They're failing you in the state houses. They're failing you on a local level, and they're failing this country as a whole. And that I can no longer support.
Listen, I've got real life experience on both of these, and it goes back 15, 20 years, going back to the Tea Party days. Okay, so let me just clarify. When we decided, and John, you and Tom and our local FRA were a great part of this. They said we're not going to put up what the RPOF is doing. Okay, we're not going to put up with what the REC did. We're going to have our elections. We see ourselves as a legitimate REC, and if they don't, you don't have to go ahead and be a member of the kitty club locally to be a Republican, okay? You don't have to be part of a local REC to be effective. You don't have to be a part of the party to be able to get out the vote, door knock, make phone calls, donate, do fundraisers, do all the stuff that it takes to required to get that stuff done. And so what we did is we didn't go head to head with them because we knew we'd end up in a fight just like Robin did. In fact, we talked briefly before he filed his lawsuit about it. But here's what we did do. We are Republicans. We are in a position where if we don't want to elect somebody because they got an R behind their name, we don't have to endorse them. But our bylaws are written loosely based after the Republican Party state model constitution. The way we operate is that same way. The people that are there are the movers and shakers of Osceola County, just like they've always been. It's 90% of what used to be the REC. And here's what I think is the most important part. You can go ahead and say whatever you want. And I don't think that the idea of the use of the word Republican is over with. I think they purposely didn't go ahead and try to do a slam dunk because they want to use that as a carrot over people's head. So what we did is we made sure that we didn't use the name Republican in. There's not a damn thing that Evan Power, Bill Helmick, Mark Cross, or any of them can do to us. We're Republicans. We support Republicans. We promote conservative values. And that's who we are, okay? I think we're perfectly positioned. Now, your comment with America First, excuse me, Cindy and I were movers and shakers in the Tea Party of Northern Virginia. I mean, we knew Ken Cuccinelli. We knew some of the people that were up there. And listen, we worked really hard. But here's what happened. The American Conservative Party decided that, same thing back in the Tea Party days. We were kind of over this and what was going on. And we had a lot of stuff going on at first. And I'm not saying this is what would happen with the American First Party. I'm just telling you from experience what did happen before, okay? So we had the American Conservative Party. We had a great showing up. We had a national convention. We had Glenn Beck out there. We were endorsing candidates in different states. And then Republican Party of Virginia started getting their claws into some of these people. Ken Cuccinelli, who used to be a really conservative guy, ended up being the guy that was promoting, the overthrow of President Trump at the convention, some of the people that we thought were really supportive of our ideals ended up getting positions in the Hispanic wing of the Republican. Short, what happened? You hear nothing from the Tea Party. You hear nothing from the American Conservative Party. And I'll tell you, I was the chairman of the Virginia Conservative Party. And I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm just saying that it didn't work then, and you need a lot of money, a lot of support. In the meantime, the people here in Osceola County, they voted for the legitimate REC. So we need to work towards somehow getting all that together. And I thought, too, I said, well, look, we just elected a new Republican Liberty Caucus board. Hey, maybe we can bring groups together that way. Well, the problem is the name Republican is being used. And I can assure you, when they see names like me or Tom or Dave Walsh or somebody like that on there, they're going after those chapters. So that's just
here's the thing, Rob. I'll come back to you in 1 second, but the fight has been fought, right? And you can continue fighting, but the fight does not end with the local REC. You get rid of Mark Cross, you get rid of like the fake people at the REC here at the fake REC, right? Which is what's been blessed by the GOP. And you get rid of them, and then what happens? You have to fight with the state party. And then the state party isn't. So you're saying we're Republicans and we're going to die Republicans and we're going to support Republicans here. But the Republicans that you're supporting are the ones that are selected by Tallahassee. So you're going to support Erica Booth.
No, not if I don't want to.
No, I know. But my point is that that's your only option as a Republican because the party's going to mandate. That's who they selected. The party, you don't have a choice. If you want to vote and you want to support your state legislator, it's Erica Booth, and that's the only choice that you have. And Erica Booth is not a real Republican, right? You can go to Paula Stark. Paula Stark, who's the girlfriend of the current GOP chairman in Osceola County. Okay, it's a ridiculous. That's so. What are you going to do? You're going to vote for her. That's the only Republican that you have. So you say, well, I'm Republican. We're going to support Republicans. We're going to do. But tell me when the last Republican ran as a Republican in Osceola County that was actually Republican.
And I'll tell you something, John. The reality is, and this sounds really self-centered, maybe. I don't care what happens outside of Osceola County because you know what?
About Osceola County, though, I'm using Osceola as an example.
The problem is, as long as Florida stays red, Evan Power is going to stay in office. Okay, and the people who have always gotten the money are going to get the money. Okay, that means Osceola County. That means Osceola County. That means Orange County.
I got to disagree with you, Jim, because here's the thing: the America First Party in its first month, where they put out numbers, gained more than 1,000 people. The following month, they doubled that number. By the time the election comes, you could see a trajectory of between 50,000 and 100,000 members for the America First Party of Florida, right? That is speaking something that the Tea Party, of which I was also a member of here in Florida, can not say, because the movement was completely fractured. The Tea Party did. I'll bring you in 1 minute. 1 minute, Bob. You know, it just
American First. They had American Conservative Party.
Well, but I mean, here's the thing: we don't know what that is anymore, right? And now, what the difference is that people are flooding to it. And so, if let's say that you do, I think that you can get rid of him. I think that you can get rid of what is his name, Evan Power. I think that he can be fired. The reason that he gets fired isn't going to be because Robin Lumb gets thrown out of the FRA, or because Bob Valenta gets thrown out of the Republican Party, or because you get thrown out of the REC. It's going to be because the America First Party of Florida gains 50,000 people. They're going to fire Evan Power because of that. Because he's the founder of the America First Party through his actions. And then the difference is that at least the America First Party is going to have actual conservatives that will respect their biblical duty to serve when they are elected. That's a big difference. Like I said, we can talk about being conservatives, and I'm going to support Republicans, but find me the Republican. Find me the Republican. Tell me the one good elected Republican in any of your counties, right? How many Republican officials are there? And you'll go ahead. You can go ahead and name his name.
You asking me?
Yeah. Name them.
Senator Clay Yarborough,
Okay.
City Councilman Mike Gay,
Okay.
are two outstanding conservatives. I serve with Clay, and he did everything that he could to annoy. Just because he was a man of principle, a solid Christian, he did everything wrong in the eyes of the donor class, but he was still able, because he's a man of integrity, and people just trust him. He was able to carve out a career. And as
how many Republican elected officials do you have in Duval County?
A ton.
Okay, so you can name 2 names of real.
I'm not saying. I'm not saying. You're saying. Well. I know what a Republican is.
You tell me what a good Republican is.
And you gave me 2 names. Is a solid. When I was on city council, I was one of the people that led the fight against the transgender ordinance. My signature legislation was whistleblower and the creation of the Office of the Independent Inspector General, and we had some solid conservatives. But let me go.
Let me address what you just said. It's a solid conservative,
Guys,
right?
we are way off of track here.
A good conservative isn't somebody who's conservative. A good conservative is somebody who begins with honesty and integrity. And
a debate about conservatism and the America First Party, guys.
Let's go. Go ahead.
Let's
Bob,
dial it back.
What are your thoughts?
My only comment.
My
only comment is that everybody voted for what they wanted, and that's what you got right now. So it's not intended to be a turf
at the
war
end
or
of the
anything
day,
like that. I think
guys,
it's counterproductive. It doesn't serve anybody well.
We need to come to truth, right? That's the one thing that we all have in common here is that we have an appreciation for the value of the truth in the conversation. And I'm Robin Lumb out of my club with me on AMF. I'm not going to kick Bob out on the AMF, right? As a member, if I had a voting privilege in the FRA, I am a member. And if I had voting privilege, I would vote for both of these men, right? But the difference is that the 4 of us here, the 5 of us with Tom, on the value of the conversation. And it's not held in the dark. Yeah. It's not a conversation that can be held from the people who are involved. It's a conversation that needs to be in the light, in God's light, most importantly, and that needs to be had for the first time. And it may not be a comfortable conversation, but it's one that has to be held.
John, I would just say that we, like Tom said, we.
Are you talking?
No, that's Bob and
sorry, Bob.
That's okay. I just want to say, for Robin and I, we're running to be the president and vice president of the Florida Republican Assembly. I appreciate what you and Trent are doing. Trent's a very good friend of mine. I think you know that. In fact, I invited him on to tonight's show, but he couldn't make it because he's out in Washington catching me some salmon. So,
I've seen the pictures.
Yeah, so have I.
And that's an important distinction to make also, is that you guys are running for a Republican organization and you guys are Republicans. And certainly this is a sidebar discussion that we're having about the AMF. You know, I've lost my hope in it. I have not lost my hope in the FRA. I'm hoping that you guys win. I'm still a member. I can't be in the leadership, obviously. And maybe besides the Senate, because I'm not an actual registered Republican. But at the same time,
after tonight's show, I think that's possible.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. I'm okay. It's fine. Either way, I'm okay. But anyways, listen, I really appreciate you coming on. Tom, I can't hear you. Go ahead, Robin.
I just want to say the power of the FRA, the secret sauce, and the thing that the RPUF, we know for a fact that they don't like, is their ability to endorse in Republican primaries. That's what they don't like. And having been a campaign consultant, and I've got friends who teach campaigning at the graduate level, blah, blah, blah. I know that the word Republican creates an instant identification with Republican voters. They're not exactly sure what you mean. So if you're an organization like the Florida Republican Assembly, they know how basically you're aligned philosophically, and they'll give you a listen. And you have some credibility. And so when something called the Florida Republican Assembly steps into a Republican primary and starts endorsing, that potentially could have a major effect. And that's what the RPO looks like.
Then why is Lou Marin pushing for weakening our ability to endorse on the county level?
Anything.
Requirement. It's going to be a requirement to get back to the RPOF.
Yep,
right.
That's what I'm saying.
I'm simply saying that the strength of the FRA is the endorsement power.
Absolutely.
I agree.
And the word Republican is important. The term Republican is important.
Sure.
Yeah, I agree. Philosophically, absolutely, I agree with you.
Yeah.
I've been on the air for 2 hours now. My goodness, this is like a long Navy ride. Not
I could go for another 2 hours. Who's up for it?
This is, listen, I am passionate about this, and you guys are too. It shows exactly why you guys are running. You guys have a ton of energy. You guys care about this. So do I. Jim called in to come, spend his late night sick, on the show, because this is important. And without people to stand up, I mean, if the four of us and if the hundreds of people in the FRA and the thousands of people across the state who are fighting for their conservative beliefs, we would be New York. And what a tragedy that would be. So, gentlemen, I appreciate all of you dearly. You're very good men. I wish that Lou was on. We're going to have to maybe, at some point in the near future before the elections, have Lou on, and Lou can defend himself and explain exactly. I'm sure that there's always an aspect of misunderstanding to every situation. But this is a time for men, regardless of the hunger of speaking truth. It's time for men to speak the truth, to act on that truth, and to behave like the men, like what God expects of all of us. And so I appreciate you coming on. Tom, I can't hear anything from you, so I'm sure that you say goodbye to these guys. I'm going to wrap it up. I don't even know if Tom is there anymore.
He is.
I'm here.
Tell
him I'm going to say something.
But I can't hear you, Tom. So,
guys, real quick before we do wrap up the show.
Tom's going to close us out.
Yeah, I was just going to say this real quick.
Okay.
I want to go ahead and give each of you.
God bless you all.
Hold on a minute. Well, all right, John might go away, but not yet, guys. I want to give you each an opportunity to plug yourselves and how people can reach you and speak to you. I'm going to start off with you first, Bob.
So I've begun the process of putting our bios on Lee County's website. So if there's a chance that you can maybe put this up on the screen, it's leerepublican.com/FRA. Now, until we get it hammered out what the positions that we're able to run for are slim, I don't know.
Absolutely.
So again, leerepublican.com/FRA.
There
if they
we
want
go.
to get
All
in
right,
touch
Robin.
with me, you can reach me at Robin T. He is a Turner Lumb LUMB at gmail.com. Robin T. Lumb at gmail.com.
Excellent. And Jim, introduce you properly. Now I know because I think Bob and you are the chairman of the Osceola Action Committee. So the chairman, the newly elected Republican Liberty Caucus. And how can people get a hold of you, Jim? I do have your handle for X on the screen.
So first of all, I know these guys here and yourself, Tom, all of you guys would make excellent candidates and excellent leaders inside the FRA. And I would encourage anybody that's watching to make sure that they cast their vote for all three of you guys here. I think it's that important, and I think there's a lot of at stake there. So, again, chairman of the Osceola Conservative Action Committee. We are the legitimate REC in Osceola County. You can reach me at jim.osceolared gmail.com. Or I guess Tom's got some other information scrolling down that I can't see, but that's how you can get a hold of me. So I appreciate the time. I always appreciate the banter with my Army buddy, John. If it wasn't for the Navy, the Army wouldn't be able to do their job. So, we're glad for that. Thank
All
you, guys.
right. So you guys have a great night, and unsanctioned viewers, we will see you very soon with a new episode of America, which is long overdue, and a new episode of Florida coming at you, I believe, Monday. We'll see.
Well, I mean, I was entertained, to be honest.
I think it is rich beyond measure. The fact that a school board member that has tens of millions of dollars of conflict of interest before this board has the courage to come up here and talk about anyone's behavior. If anyone should be ashamed of themselves, sir, it should be you.
And I'm in favor of you being able to speak your mind no matter what. That's how we get, remember when we were kids, right? And you had a problem with somebody, and then your dad would kick you out to go fight with that kid, and then you shake hands, then you go home, and then you become friends. Disgust when they're trying to, take this word and give it meaning that it doesn't have. Our entire country needs to go through a fasting. You see all of these new age hippies, right? They're constantly fasting. They're doing starvation diets, or they won't eat for this. What is it called? Like some kind of
intermittent fasting. It's not just us, and not just fans of President Trump, MAGA Republicans. We're not the only ones that see it.